Welcome back to another episode of Psycosmos. Today I'm going to continue the Secrets of the Universe series on our channel by discussing a very important religious movement and very important concept in humanity known as Hermeticism. If you've never heard about it, we're going to get into it just a little bit in this video, so keep watching for more. Make sure if you haven't checked out any of the other Secrets of the Universe videos, you go and check out those as well. Thank you for watching these, by the way. We really appreciate it. Okay, so real quick, what is Hermeticism? Hermeticism was a religious movement that started roughly around 70 AD. And we're going to try to give a very, very brief description. We will definitely go more in depth on this channel about Hermeticism and a lot of its concepts. I'm definitely going to be making some videos on the 7 Hermetic principles, which we'll touch on a little bit later in this video. Hermeticism was a religious movement that was started by a man named Hermes Trismegistus, or Hermes the Thrice Coming. It started around 70 AD in Alexandria, Egypt, and a lot of modern people theorize that Hermeticism was the precursor to what is now known as the Christian Bible. If you don't know who Hermes Trismegistus is, again, Hermes the Thrice Coming. Hermes was the Greek god of wisdom, and he was also the messenger of the gods. However, who Hermes really was, whether it was a real person or not, is still up to interpretation. A lot of people believe it was an actual figure who was the embodiment of the planet Mercury. The reason that Mercury is so important was because Mercury is the closest to the sun, and it also, from our perspective on Earth, is one of the 7 wandering planets. 7 being a very important number in Hermeticism, Christianity, Judeo-Christian cultures in general, Egyptian mythology, things like that. You'll know that the 7 wanderers being Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, the Moon, and the Sun. Those 7 planets move in a fashion that definitely can be tracked over a long period of time. However, they aren't essentially fixated like the other stars in the sky that would be known as the zodiac, or the wheel that is in the sky that we are intermittently locked into. Hermes Trismegistus, meaning the thrice coming. So if he was the third coming of the embodiment of Mercury, who were the first two? The first one being Thoth, the ancient Egyptian god of wisdom, and the second being Hermes from Greek mythology. Now, a lot of ancient Egyptian mythology believes that Thoth was a real person, and a lot of Greek mythology believes that Hermes was a real person. They were gods. They were gods among men. They walked around and they spoke and they gave their own personal interpretations and wisdom to people on the planet Earth. Now, I'm not here to debunk or argue any of those concepts. What I'm here to talk about is Hermes Trismegistus and his religious movement, because this is what sent basically the modern world into the way that it is today. And a lot of the most powerful people on the planet actually study Hermeticism very extensively, and it's probably why you may not have ever heard of it before. Hermeticism has 7 basic concepts that I'm going to break down in individual videos. These 7 Hermetic principles are ways to master your own life and your own self. Just to give you a little bit of background on the culmination in the history of why Hermeticism was started. In 70 BC, Julius Caesar, the emperor of Rome, attacked what was known as Alexandria, Egypt. Alexandria, Egypt was a very important location because Alexander the Great, the conqueror, who learned from some of the greatest philosophers in the world, Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato, not all at the same time, of course. These were concepts that they had all passed down, eventually making their way to Alexander the Great, mind you. However, Alexander the Great was the Great. You know, you don't get that title for nothing. He was one of the greatest world conquerors in the entire world. And when he took over a majority of the Mesopotamian area, as well as other parts of like Asia and Europe and Africa, he overtook the area that was known as Alexandria, Egypt. They thought of it as a very special and sacred place. So what they did over the course of the next few hundred years since Alexander the Great's passing was they built what was known as the Library of Alexandria. Very important because it was eventually destroyed. The reason it was destroyed was for a couple of reasons, and some people have different theories, but based off of our research, this is what we found. When Julius Caesar attacked the Library of Alexandria, our opinion is that he wasn't necessarily trying to destroy the library. He was just trying to overtake the city. But Julius Caesar did have an idea. He did have a concept where he wanted to create a religious movement. He knew that he could pit the people against each other all day long if he wanted to, but the thing that was going to stand the test of time was a religious movement. So he tried a lot in his time to create some form of religion. And whether or not that was the reason he was betrayed and stabbed by his Senate members and his best friend Brutus. I can't really say, but I will say this. Augustus, which was his successor, eventually tried to perpetuate that same idea of a religious movement. Augustus lived to about 20 AD, which supposedly was right before the death of Jesus Christ, which would have been around 33 to 36 AD. However, Augustus did do a lot of very interesting things that even still last with us today. And I'll give you a great example. They changed a lot of the calendar. March 21st used to be the first day of the year. And then when you go March, April, May, June, July used to be known as quintilis or 5, and August used to be known as sextilis or 6. However, they changed this to July for Julius and August for Augustus just because they wanted to maintain that family lineage and their ideals and their ideas. And we still even feel that today. I mean, we still call it July and August. It's still relevant even today. Augustus passed around 20 AD, and from that, about 50 years later, there was a very large movement in Alexandria because the Library of Alexandria was such an important and crucial location in the world. It was a big housing point of the most important documents and the most important ideas all throughout history, all throughout human history for probably the last 2,000 to 4,000 years, ever since ancient Egypt. So you had all of these wonderful, beautiful ancient texts and documentation in this one location. Well, what's going to happen when somebody doesn't want that information around anymore? It's going to get destroyed. Alexandria was such an important city, and the library was so important that even when ships would come into the harbor and they would dock, the people at the library would take any form of documentation or writings that they had, and they would make copies for the people. So they imagine driving across state lines if you live in the United States, and if you were to go from, let's say, I don't know, North Carolina to South Carolina, and as soon as you cross the border, they had to go through every single receipt that you ever had, and they had to make a copy of it, or they had to go through your phone. Oh my God, the atrocities that would cause. Holy crap. Not only that, but imagine how long that would take to go through every single person that's coming in and out of a city and to go through all the documentation. That's how important this library was. They were essentially trying to create a monument and an attest to human thought and philosophy and everything else. It was supposed to be a safe haven. And essentially, from Julius Caesar all the way to right around the time of Constantine, it was eventually destroyed, roughly around 200 AD. The reason it was destroyed was basically for power. The people who wanted to continue that idea that Julius Caesar had of creating a religious movement eventually overtook the number one location at the time on the face of the planet of human religion, spirituality, philosophy, and thought. They destroyed a lot of the documentation, but before they did that, Hermes Trismegistus in 70 AD created the Hermetica, which was basically the precursor to the Bible. A lot of the concepts of Hermeticism were eventually either completely hidden or thrown away, or they were interpreted into different concepts that were eventually thrown into the Bible. The Bible is not just a Latin creation. The Bible interprets things from Hindu culture, Egyptian culture, Greco-Roman culture, and Jewish culture. And it is those four cultures, mainly, that have culminated into what the modern Christian Bible is today. And because the Hermetica was a combination of all of those different concepts, it was eventually drafted through Constantine, through King James, and through other important people in history into what we now have as the modern Bible today, which has shaped a lot of the foundations of the laws that we have in modern Western society. Just as a brief recap, Hermeticism is a very important religious movement. I'm not saying it's directly tied to Christianity. There are a lot of different aspects in modern Christianity that do relate to Hermeticism, and I think that if people did a little bit more research and they read, and they took everything, of course, with a grain of salt, a lot of people, I feel like, have an issue with Christianity today, modernly, because they feel it's outdated. And whether that's a fair or unfair way to see it, tradition is still very, very important. And if you research Hermeticism, you'll actually find that there are a lot of really great concepts for your own self-mastery and your own personal development. So with that, we're going to close. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you comment and subscribe, like the video, and share this with your friends and family members. Drop a comment down below. Tell us whether or not you find this interesting or whether or not you think this is a bunch of hocus pocus garbage. Either way, the whole point of us bringing up these topics is for personal development and self-motivation and finding that inner you that wants to break out, be free, and be the person that you really truly want to be. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe and you stay tuned for more Secrets of the Universe videos coming shortly.